Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. This show, as always, is brought to you by RoyalsReview.com, your one stop shop for all things Kansas City Royals. Whether you need to know about the latest news, hottest prospects, or want to chat with other rabid Royals fans, you can find it at RoyalsReview.com. I am Jacob Milham, and I am joined today by Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Is it weird not having football on every Sunday? Yeah,
No, I don't miss it that much, honestly. Like, I love watching football, but when the season's over, I'm like, yeah, it's about time for the season to end, I guess.
that's fair. That's fair. All right, so we have a fair amount of Royal stuff to cover today, so I don't want to take too long. First, we got to cover the new MLB veteran that is joining the Royals on a minor league contract. Plus, we got to talk about the top prospect who is going to miss spring training and possibly some of the regular season due to injury. Plus, Jeremy and I are going to weigh in on what spring training stats matter and which ones don't, so that we can watch these spring training games a little bit more critically, or listen, that is. And then finally, we got to talk about the ESPN and MLB divorce. But if you like what you hear or you like the Kansas City Royals, please make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on your respective platform. We talk about Kansas City Royals all the time here. And just like that, as I'm doing my intro, Jack Caglione homers for his very first spring training home run in a Kansas City Royals uniform. So I appreciate that, Jack. Thank you. You have excellent timing, my friend. All right, Jeremy. So let's go and talk about this Ross Stripling signing. It is I think that I was more in on the Royal signing Ross Stripling. It was either last year or the year before, but it doesn't really matter. He is now in spring training with the Kansas City Royals. The righty was ready to go on Thursday for day one of spring training, and the organization has nothing but great things to say about the 35-year-old. Does he have perfect stats across his career? No. Last season was pretty rocky with the Athletics, a 6.01 ERA across 22 appearances and 14 starts. But he was dealing with injuries, and that really did hamper his performance. And the defense behind him didn't really help things. His FIP was 3.89. So there is something there, obviously, that the Royals feel like they can work with. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this signing?
Excuse me. Well, for a minor league signing at the very beginning of spring, I am pretty excited about it, honestly. You talked about the FIP, the XFIP, the XERA, and the Sierra all paint the same picture. He was not as bad as he looked last year, at least as far as the ERA goes. The big thing that stood out when I was looking at it, and I'm trying to find it again now, his left on base percentage was 54.8%, which is ridiculously low.
Yeah, it is.
Most pitchers hover around 70.
Mm-hmm.
So for it to be that low, that feels like it's probably a fluke. He's also a guy who just doesn't walk hitters. So that's a thing that we like to see. And again, he's depth. He's a guy who's going to sit in the minor leagues, and if there's an injury, he can come up and give you a couple competent starts, hopefully, before, somebody else is ready or somebody comes off the injured list or whatever you need to do. He's not a guy that the Royals are going to be counting on in any way, but he provides that veteran depth that can be so crucial in the middle of the season when guys are getting hurt.
Yeah, that's very true. And like you said, that he doesn't really walk guys. A career 5.6% walk rate since he debuted in 2016. That's a pretty big body of work that shows he just does not walk guys. And we know how much the major league staff values throwing pitches in the zone. It's listen, if you might not have overpowering stuff, you might not have two or three get out pitches, that's okay, especially when you're looking at this is a depth option. He can pitch to contact, and he does have some proven success. I mean, he was an all-star with the Los Angeles Dodgers, for crying out loud. He does have talent, and he has produced in the past. Now, for everyone's awareness, there are some specific rules, since he has X amount of service time, and he signed, I think it's more than 10 days before opening day with the Royals. He does have a few opt outs. if he doesn't make the opening day roster, which I wouldn't imagine that he does.
No,
But
there's almost no chance of
no,
that.
no. But like let's say he has a super strong spring and he feels like, well, I can go elsewhere and I can make a major league roster. That's okay. That's no skin off the Royals' back, in my opinion. And if he decides to stay, then like you said, he is that proven depth that, I mean, I'm sorry, if you're looking at like your number six, number seven guy coming from Omaha, I think that's pretty good depth. Like
Yeah,
I would be happy.
maybe even number 8.
Yeah,
He's
true.
he's a very low ceiling guy.
Hmm.
You're not looking to get, like, an excellent performance out of him at any point, but he's a relatively high floor guy. You just don't expect him to completely implode. Now, the Athletics didn't expect him to implode last year, and
Yeah.
we talked about, yeah, there's some bad luck, and bad luck can bite you and give you an ERA over 6 at the end of the year, but I wouldn't expect him to pitch that poorly for the Royals, and certainly the Royals, I think if he pitched that poorly for multiple starts in a row, would be like, "Alright, time to find another option." Whereas
Yeah.
the Athletics last year were just like, "Well, just keep pitching, I guess."
Yeah, they really didn't have that many better options. And I will say there's not a whole lot of projectability in like his I'm looking at his zips projections for 2025, projected to have 15 starts with whatever club he's with for a 4.97 ERA. You could definitely do worse as your number 7, number 8 guy in your system. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy to see how he does in spring and what this translates to for the Royals. I think that this is also a good sign that like hey, proven veterans feel like they can come to Kansas City and rehab their image or their value at the major league level. So I'm happy about that. That will probably serve the Royals down the line, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on. So, unfortunately, we did get our first big dose of bad news out of spring training. Kansas City Royals pitcher Blake, or excuse me, catching prospect.
Like, is there another injury that I didn't know about? What's happening? And then you said Blake, and the first guy I thought of was Blake Trinan, and I'm like, I don't think he's a Royal.
Yeah, that would be funny, and I would be pretty happy with that signing. But anywho's, Blake Mitchell unfortunately is going to miss an extended period of time. He broke his right hamate bone, and he is scheduled to undergo surgery, which will sideline him for about 4 to 6 weeks, according to MLB.com's Annie Rogers. It kind of sucks. Like any injury sucks, right?
Yeah,
Especially extended ones. But I think it sucks even more that like Mitchell didn't get a chance to make his Cactus League debut. This
yeah.
was his first major league camp, and he was a non-roster invitee. There's a ton of prospect power still in camp with the Royals, but it's definitely disappointing that he couldn't make an impact in spring. But from this doesn't sound like anything that Royals fans should be particularly worried about. But we'll see, right, Jeremy?
Well, the hamate bone is in your hand wrist area, which those kinds of injuries, especially for batters, can really linger. Oh, and losing a month to 2 months of prospect development time can just absolutely derail a guy, so it'll be really important to see how he bounces back from the injury. I'm going to be at least you seem not concerned, all that concerned. I'm moderately concerned about what this could mean for him right now. You know, guys come back from these injuries all the time, but guys also don't come back from injuries like this. So we'll see what happens. It's probably will be fine, but I my concern level is not nothing.
Yeah. I'd say scale 1 to 10. My concern level would be about a 3.
Yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
probably 4 or 5, but yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna hope that hey he's ready to go fully by May, but we'll see when he actually returns to baseball activities and how that looks. It am I off base by thinking like well at least it's not in his catching hand that this injury happened?
I'm not concerned about his ability to catch. I'm concerned about what it'll do to his ability to hit, and either hand when it comes to hitting is
Okay.
problematic.
Yeah.
So,
I.e. Hunter Dozier.
yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, the thumb or whatever.
Yeah. The thumb that he said was nagging him all year.
Yeah. It was the same year that Carlos Santana was injured all year, and then last year, Stratton is injured all year,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
just like, why don't these guys ever go on the injured list if they're injured all year?
It's a valid question. It really, really is.
And it's not like they're playing worse, but still well. They're just playing bad.
Mhm. That is true. So we will see when Blake Mitchell comes back to baseball activities. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. But of course, every something that every single Royals fan should be keeping a close eye on right now is the action going on down in Surprise, Arizona. The Royals are playing against the Chicago White Sox right now as we're recording this, but Kansas City Royals won their first two games, 5-2 over the Texas Rangers, and then just an absolute barrage from the bats against the Los Angeles Dodgers, 11-10. Jeremy, have you had a chance to listen to the games, or I
I
know the
watched
Dodgers had a stream.
Yeah, I watched yesterday's Dodgers stream, and I listened to a little bit of it on the radio side for the Royals. I did not get a chance to watch today or Friday or listen. It's very much early spring training baseball with a bunch
Yeah,
of guys that you've never heard of and may never hear of again.
that is true. That is true. The Royals have 66 guys with them in camp right now, which is a absolute ton. And just trying to look at the box score, I mean, it's a doozy to look at because you got the starters, the substitutions, the substitutes for the substitutes, and everything like that. So I mean, it's just a part of spring training. And I know that wins and losses don't really matter; they don't really count here, but you have to feel good in the clubhouse if you are winning in Arizona and you come back to Kansas City, I would imagine.
I mean, winning's always better than losing. I don't know how much better in this case, but I do like the fact that the Royals came back from a large deficit yesterday,
Hmm.
and today they've come back from a late deficit. They were down 3-1, and now they're up 4-3 in the bottom of the eighth as we're recording this. So again, these are guys that we've never heard of doing things against guys we've never heard of. It's Kyle Hayes doubles to drive in Peyton Wilson, and then Jack Pineda singles to drive in Cross. I mean, we've heard of Gavin Cross, but that's it.
Yeah,
So it's just that's the way it goes right now.
that it is.
And yesterday it was Nick Lofton and John Rave that were doing a lot of the damage in the late
Hmm.
innings, but it's just shouldn't read too much into it. I know you were wanting to talk about like what stats we should look at and what we shouldn't look at. And the biggest stat you can look at is one that you'll only find on Baseball Reference, to my knowledge, which is the average opponent's level.
Yeah,
So that tells you, gives you a number that you can look at to be like, how close are the pitchers that they're facing or the batters they facing to major league ready? And a lot of times what you're going to see, especially right now, is, oh, they're facing high A guys or double A guys. And yeah, you hit 2 home runs off a double A guy that's better than striking out twice, but it also doesn't mean much.
that is true.
And then if you do find a guy who's getting, and you'll see this more as the preseason goes on and some of these guys get shuffled back to minor league camp. The stats I pay attention to more than anything are the strikeout rates and the walk rates. And of course, modify those for the quality of their competition. But those are the ones that, according to the reading I did, I wrote an article about this on Royals Review a few years ago. Those are the ones that stabilize and tend to mean something as we head into the regular season. But I think if we asked Dan Zimborski, for example, does Zips account for spring training stats in its projections? I don't think it does, because they just so rarely mean anything.
Well, actually, so what I was gonna say is I would love to get Dan's thought if this has changed, but the limited research I was doing does show that there's a change between spring training and regular season. So like there's a pre-spring training zips projections and then there's another update ahead of opening day. And usually the opening day zips projections are the closest thing to what is the ultimate outcome, if that makes sense. So there's a little bit of positivity there. It's all on a curve. Like there's nothing that translates one for one to opening day from spring training, but it'll show like, let's say a pitcher goes out and across the entirety of spring training, he doesn't allow a single hit to any MLB ready hitter and has a 0 ERA. Well, That's going to factor into his zips. And usually those guys will go on and have a better season than they were originally projected. Will they go hitless for the entire 2025 season? No. But I listen, I had to put it out there. But it's all on a curve. I was gonna back up what you said with the data does show that both pitchers and batters, their strikeout and walk rates do closely translate from spring training to the regular season. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. For example, I'm trying to think of a Royals pitcher today because it seems like there's been a lot of walks. Yeah. So like Austin Cox, for example, he did not have a very good outing today. Two walks, one hit allowed with two earned runs. The ERA that he has right now, that's 18, is not going to translate to the AAA season. But walking two of those batters, well, that's a little bit more indicative of what may happen. Now, of course, this is going with the entire body of spring training. We're not even three full games into
Yeah, I was
spring
gonna
training
say
right now.
those the 2 walks by themselves don't mean much, but if he continues to do that and he didn't have a good first outing either,
No, he did not.
then you're like, might be time to hang him up, Austin."
And it might be. It might be. So we'll see what happens with Austin Cox there. I I will say, so you were bringing up, there's a whole bunch of guys here that you will probably never hear from again,
Yeah,
and I find it very rare when I'll look at the box score, I'm like, "Who the hell is that?" And
yeah,
I did that with, Hatch today.
yeah, I who's Noriega?
Oh, man, yeah,
The
he
guy
is
pitching
deep in the
right now.
system. He is very deep in the system. Cruz Noriega, he's a 27-year-old, hasn't been above double A in his
Yeah,
career. So
and we follow the Royals, like, professionally. That's what we do, and neither of us are prospect hounds, but it's not like we're unaware of the minor leagues.
right,
Right?
right.
So, Preston Farr probably knows who all these guys are. Greg probably knows who all these guys are,
Yep,
but
probably so.
but even we don't know who all these guys are sometimes. It's just kinda a little crazy.
Yeah, it is, it is. So, all in all, I don't think that we have a big enough body of work for any fan out there to say, "Well, this player is going to be X or Y in 2025 because of this spring training thing." Now, I think that there's a pretty decent amount of time between the last spring training game and opening day. I think in that
A few
period
days.
of What'd you say?
It's like 3 or 4 days.
I think so. Hold on. Let me scroll down a little bit because I want to say it's actually a lot bigger than that. So opening day is March 27th. Last spring training game is March 21st. They have like
Well,
three
that's the
exhibition
last spring
games.
training game, but I think they have a couple exhibition games that aren't technically spring training after that.
Yeah, against the Rangers. So that's what I was forgetting about. But in that period of time, I think we can go back, take a breath, look at, well, this is what this player was in spring training. So they may be this in the regular season, but that's way down the line. That is like a month from now.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy that like we got Steve Stewart and Jake Eisenberg on the horn again. It was good to hear them
Had
broadcast.
Lefevre yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. I was able to tune in for a little bit of Ryan on the horn. So I'm just enjoying baseball being back in any capacity right now. And I really want Royals fans to be able to enjoy it, just enjoy it with a little bit of a grain of salt. And you know what? The Royals are undefeated right now because they just went final against the Chicago White Sox. So hey, you know what? Maybe they'll go 162-0. Maybe that translates to the regular season, right, Jeremy?
I remember too many Cactus League titles for that to be a thing.
Yeah, it's pretty traumatic to Royals fans out there. Listen, there'd be plenty of banners flying at Kauffman Stadium if spring training mattered. I'll tell you what. There is something that I did want to clarify on spring training stats that don't translate well. Barrel rate is one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Um Peak exit velocity is another one that doesn't translate very well according to
That
the
makes sense
data.
because the air in Arizona is different from a lot of other places.
Right. And I found it interesting that peak exit velocity translates a lot worse than average exit velocity.
I
Does that
think
make
I
sense?
think I think that does make sense though, because like we always hear how the ball travels farther in Arizona than it does in most of the rest of the league, especially in spring training. So you'd think, well, the peak exit velocity, that's the hardest hit balls are going to go further, and that means you've hit it harder if it goes further. That's how physics works. But like average exit velocity is like, okay, well, now you're adding in the little squibbers and things that are the normal thing that this air isn't affecting those much.
Yeah.
So when you bring your average back closer to what your average really would be.
Okay. And there was one more. I'm drawing a blank on it. Barrel rate, exit velocity. This is a no brainer, but I need to say it, like home run to fly ball. That
Yeah,
very well. But enjoy the games. Enjoy watching them where we can. I know
I
it.
was loving watching John Raves swing the bat yesterday. Like, I don't is he a big league player? Is he an option for the Royals? I don't know, but I like as much as I hated MJ Melendez's swing for his entire career to this point, I loved watching Rave swing. I was like, "Ooh, that feels good" when I watched that one.
Yeah, that triple was pretty spot on.
But even the swings before that, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna hit it hard. He's gonna, because he's that swing is nice."
Well, it's him and what Tyler Gentry's also like that. You know, he had that home run in the Cactus League premier
Opener. Yeah.
opener. Thank you. So I really want to dream on these guys and say like, yeah, you know what? Maybe they're gonna barrel up the ball more. Maybe things are gonna be different. But at the end of the day, like Raven Gentry are prime examples of this. They are really like seasoned at the AAA level,
Yeah.
and they're facing competition that might just be in high A or double A. So
Yeah.
they should perform better.
Yeah.
So like I've said like four times now, just happy that baseball's back, and I don't want to spend the entire time whispering about who should or shouldn't make the opening day roster after three spring training games.
John
If
Rave.
that if that mattered, then we'd be talking about a hitless shortstop named Bobby Witt Jr. We
Yeah,
shouldn't really be
fire that
worried about
guy.
him. Get him out of here. Get Jack Pineda in there, shortstop, huh? No, but it is. I'm gonna put in the clips from Carter Jensen and Jack Caglione's home runs today because man, the audio on them is just impeccable, just chef's kiss, Jeremy. But for the time being, something that baseball with a capital B should be aware of is the ESPN and MLB divorce. I don't have anything pulled up in front of me, so I can you explain like what this divorce is real quick?
So, the first thing you need to know is that Sunday Night Baseball, MLB's stuff with ESPN, not ending this year. It ends after this season. So if you're like, oh no, what am I going to do on Sunday night? You can still watch baseball. You're fine for this season. And it basically comes down to money. ESPN didn't want to pay as much as they were paying. They felt like it wasn't profitable enough for them to keep doing that. And MLB said, well, we're not going to just lower it. We can cancel it, but that's it. But that's the other thing is, yeah, okay, they've canceled the deal, but it still runs through the end of 2025. And if you think both sides aren't interested in finding a new agreement going forward, then you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's a divorce, it's a divorce, it's a divorce. But really, the divorce proceedings are started, but they're in couples counseling. So they're hoping to make it work.
Hopefully.
There's this trial separation is what's happening here. We're their fingers crossed they'll get it figured out because national TV deals are a big part of MLB's profits, and ESPN is part of that. It's not all of their national TV deals, obviously, but it's a big part of it. So if MLB wants to continue to be profitable, they're going to have that. And the big thing, the big takeaway for me is we've talked about this before that and this is kind of my hobby horse this season, I guess this off season has been fans are not the audience for MLB
Yeah.
anymore. Fans are the product.
Hmm.
Baseball's not the product, fans are the product. They're selling their fans to advertisers and saying, "Give us money for our fans." And if the people, in this case ESPN, are saying it's not worth the money that you're asking anymore, that could be very bad for MLB's future, or it could shift. At least it could be very good for MLB's future. Also, it's like we don't make any money anymore. Okay, but if you pivot and make the fans the audience again and make baseball the product again, then it might be better for baseball.
Might be. It might be.
It's a big question.
Yeah,
And
it
it's a
is.
direction that they may have already been heading in. They've talked about they want to bring all the broadcast stuff in-house
Mhm.
by 2027. All their deals that they're setting up are ending in 2027. So they're going to, they have to deal with the Dodgers and the Yankees of the world who are like, well, we make all of our money on our local TV deal and we don't want to share that, blah, 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 blah. But it would be better for the sport of baseball if they did.
It would. It would. And I think that's going to be an interesting part to watch because what so there all these deals are ending after 2027. So we're going to have like two off seasons of big off-field stuff happening with the
Yeah.
CBA expiring after 2026 and then this deal in 2027. So I found it shocking to see how much ESPN was paying per year for the rights to baseball that they had 550 million
Yeah.
per year, which is astounding. But I found it even more shocking in comparison to what others were paying. Apple's paying 85 million per year and Roku for their limited broadcasting is paying 10 million. So Manfred saying that ESPN came to MLB to try and reduce it. That's one side of the story. I don't even know if ESPN had an interest in reducing it because it's not like they have baseball centric programming outside of the games. They just don't. What they canceled like Baseball Tonight years ago. It's they have all this stuff for football and basketball and the collegiate sports year round, but for such a lengthy sport as baseball, they don't have anything dedicated to it, which just shows I don't think they were interested in investing in their coverage of that sport. So then why should they carry the sport and be paying all that money when other providers aren't? That's just kind
Well,
of my stance on it.
I think that again, any opportunity you have to air live sports right now is your best opportunity to get advertising dollars because live sports have for years been the only thing people watch live anymore. I mean, Game of Thrones was an exception to that rule, but HBO was also a premium channel that didn't sell advertising. So, meh. But yeah, and my concern here is that ESPN is looking at baseball and going, as you said, it's kind of a trend going, you know what? We'd rather do more NFL, NBA, NHL content and we think we'll get better advertiser dollars that way because your audience is not sustaining us anymore.
Well, so here, let me get on my little horse right now. So, front office sports, a great outlet if you want to hear more about the business side of any sport. And I think
Which I
that they
don't,
had
but
what'd you say?
which I don't, but.
Well, I get their newsletter to my email. So if I'm getting ready for the day and I have a spare moment, I'll sit down and read what they send to the email usually. And what they sent out today was like the formalized findings from the Four Nations event and talking about
That
like
was a hockey tournament.
yep, it was a very very popular hockey tournament because I was a little shocked to see like all these people coming out of the woodwork seemingly talking about this hockey game. Like I'm following baseball people, I'm following just general outlets and they're talking about this hockey game. And what they found is this is part of a trend where viewers are tuning in for premium events. They're tuning in for the Super Bowl, they're tuning in for the Four Nations, they're tuning in for these short spurt high end things. Like they didn't tune in for the All Star weekend because, well, that's been drug out over a few days and the end product isn't that great. So why should they tune in? It also follows a trend that people aren't tuning in as much for each one of the regular season games. Even the NFL giant saw, or the giant that is the NFL, saw a slight dip in viewership from week to week. And I'm sorry, you got the Royals over here with 162 games. You might see a dip in viewership for who wants to tune in for every single one of those games, but you're still going to see spikes when it comes playoff time if the Royals are there, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, the thing is, pardon me for interrupting you.
you're fine.
But the thing is that, you're watching the regular season, you get halfway through the MLB regular season, you pretty much know, like, that team's gonna make it, that team's not gonna make it. There are some teams in the middle that you don't know one way or the other, but at some point before the end of the regular season, it becomes clear, are they gonna make it or not? And you stop caring if they're not gonna make it, and even if they are gonna make it, you care less because, well, what does it matter if they win or lose while I'm watching? I'll just wait for the playoffs. And that's the other thing, is the playoffs matter more, always, constantly, forever. That's playoffs. That's why they're called the playoffs. They
Yeah.
matter more. You're eliminated if you lose,
Mhm.
etc. So, it's interesting to see the NFL expanding their regular season while MLB has been expanding their postseason. And you're like, why does MLB keep cheapening their regular season? Because no, the regular season was already getting cheaper.
Exactly. So just trying to get those postseason dollars, and I don't know how they're going to change the business model. I don't know how the streaming or the direct to consumer options are going to change things. I do know that MLB teams get a ton of money every single year from broadcast rights, from streaming rights.
Yeah, I checked Wikipedia a few weeks ago when I was looking up for that article about how the Dodgers weren't the bad guys here. It was more than 60 million in 2021 that that each team brought in from national TV deals.
It's insane.
It's insane. Like, the Royals are on national TV like 3 times a year and they're bringing in $60 million.
It's pretty good return on investment, I'll
Yeah.
say.
Well, no wonder they want to get the Yankees and Dodgers share of the local TV money too.
hmm So this is something that I'm sure is being talked about by much smarter people than I, with longer resumes and more experience. But it's something that we got to keep an eye on for the more diehard fans. I will say I have heard nothing but gleaming reviews about the process for signing up for FanDuel through the Amazon Prime stuff. I've been hearing
I
about
mean,
a
it was
lot of
20
fans.
bucks a month, which seems expensive.
It does seem
Then again,
pricey.
MLB.TV ain't any cheaper, I guess.
No, it's not. Like that's why I'm not that worried about it. If that's the in the blackout zone option that you have, then that's what you got to go with. I'm paying about the same for MLB TV out of market, but
Maybe more. I don't remember. I have to go look at my credit card statement.
all I know is it comes out at the beginning of the season, and I get an email in like middle of February, like, "Hey, we're about to charge you. Don't
Yeah.
you forget now." Um, if you want more on all the rights and where you can watch the Royals and stuff like that, we have that up on royalsreview.com. So go check that out there. Jeremy, I know it's a little bit of a quick one today, but I think it's time for our Royals review reviews.
Yeah, I guess we covered everything, huh?
Yeah, it's we you spoke about it several times this offseason. We all get to the like spring training's coming, spring training's coming, spring training's coming, and then spring training comes and it's like opening day is coming. Opening day is coming.
Yeah.
We just pivot really
But we
quickly.
did wanna I had brought up maybe we wanted to talk about the ABS,
Oh
now that we've
yeah,
seen it in action.
yeah.
What are your
What
thoughts?
you? I liked it. I think that it's definitely going to be a learning curve for the more experienced MLB players. I will say the younger players seemed more quick to do it. Like it was more reflexive, and just I heard that Freddie Fermin challenging the call when he did wasn't smooth, was how it was described. Like it was like, well, might as well challenge. That's how it
Yeah.
was described on the radio, but I don't have any first person info on that. I like how quick it is. I like that it's immediate. There's not a big pause in the game. You keep moving, and I like that it's a challenge system. I like that we're not going with full ABS. But what do you think about it?
So, at first I was like, whatever, I don't care. You can do challenge. Apparently the players prefer challenge when they were polled. But having watched it in action, yeah, it is quick. And during the early innings, that's fine. Just real quick, knock it out. Moving on. The big thing I don't like is the strike zone boxes have been removed from the TV broadcasts
Hmm.
because apparently it's not fun to already know if the challenge is going to succeed before. Like, it is though. I'm fine with that. Let me go ahead and know that ahead of time. And then the other thing that I've seen a couple times now watching spring training games that I'm a little iffy on is, like you said, I maybe this is what the Fermin call was. I don't remember who it was yesterday, but the late inning, well, we have a challenge, let's use it just in case
Yeah.
challenge that kind of, I mean, it slows it down by like 20 seconds, but it does slow it down. And the more I think about it, the less I'm like, what we get to the end of the game and he throws strike three, and then they challenge it to see if it's actually a ball. I don't want to do that. I want the game to be over or not over. So I would, and to my mind, I would like to see just use the robo ump, call the balls and strikes, let the umpire call it, but have it in his ear the whole time. I mean, unless the technology is not capable of doing that in real time, and maybe that's an issue because it does, we don't immediately have the call when they challenge it. So something's taking some time there. Is it just setting up the graphic or what's the deal? So that's an important question to ask. And then finally, oh, I lost I had one more thought and I lost it. It's gone.
Dang it. It'll come back when we least expect it. But yeah, I think it's go ahead.
I found it interesting. Like the first challenge of spring training between the Dodgers and the Cubs was correct. He successfully challenged, but there have been quite a few not good challenges,
Yeah.
including at least one yesterday where somebody challenged a call and it was like not even close. And it's like, yeah, he wasn't challenging that because he really thought it was wrong. He was challenging it because he was upset about it, and the motion is just a quick tap on the head. So like you're like, no, I shouldn't have done that.
I didn't think about that. Maybe just some frustration boiling
Yeah.
over and you sacrifice one of those challenges. Like that's pretty costly,
Yeah.
I will
Well,
say.
we've seen guys, argue with umpires in the past about calls that were obviously correct.
Mhm.
So it's only natural that if you feel like if you have the thought process that you can yell at the umpire about it, you also have the thought process I can tap my head about it. I'm also, now that I just thought of this, I'm really going to be interested to see how many guys as the regular season starts are still trying to tap their helmets for the
Yeah.
challenge.
That'd be funny. That'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I think it would be such a interesting thing. Like, imagine all the players getting together and say, like, well, that's how we're gonna, get after the umps now. We're just gonna tap our helmet. It was like, yeah, that would be challenged, but here we are. So just to clarify, this isn't going past spring training as of
Correct.
right now.
Not this year.
Yeah,
I
not
don't think it can this year anymore. They would have had to have announced it earlier.
yeah, I agree with that. I wouldn't I wouldn't say I expect it to be the norm in the regular season next year, but I wouldn't be
I do.
surprised if it was
I
either.
expect it.
Okay. There's
Maybe not exactly what they're doing now, but some form of the challenge system, I believe, will be in place by the beginning of next season.
I like that. This is what they did with the pitch clock, except they had a lot more runway with this ABS. Like they've been testing this at different levels since like 2018. Like this has been a work in progress. The pitch clock thing was, I think, just after the pandemic, if I recall correctly.
Well, they've been doing it for a couple of years in the minor leagues before they brought that on too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is like
Not as long, but yeah.
yes. So we'll see what happens next year. It's I think that
Well,
fans will get a little bit more of a feel for it once they see it on a broadcast for the Royals.
yeah, that does make me wonder if that's one of the reasons ESPN doesn't want to pay as much for advertising, is because they're getting less advertising now. Well, no, they're not. They're getting just as much advertising because the game itself was what was long. I mean, it was the inning in the pitch clock doesn't change anything about the number of commercial breaks.
Correct. Yeah, that doesn't change anything. So
You
we
actually get more advertising in less time because you
yeah,
have the same number of commercial breaks.
which means that you would be able to charge more per commercial, correct?
Well, I don't know if you charge more per commercial or you charge the same amount, but you get more per hour because you're showing more commercials per hour.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I had a disconnect in my head about that.
Yeah,
See, that's why you're the brains of this operation, Jeremy.
that seems risky.
It is a gamble. But hey, let's go ahead and get on to today's Royals reviews. If you don't mind, Jeremy, I'll start off with mine real
Go for it.
quick. I'm so there's a term in the reading culture that is social media, and it's DNF. It stands for did not finish. And
Uh,
I don't
that's not
DNF.
what I thought.
It's a little risky, but I don't not finish. I don't DNF books very often. Usually I'll push through it if it's pretty slow. But for the first time in a while, I finally had one. I was like, you know what, I can't get with this. And it's from a pretty good author, so I was really surprised. It's from Max Brooks and it's called De-Evolution. It is the first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. If you number one, this is all fictional. So
Okay.
yeah, all fictional. If you know Max Brooks, his big calling card is he wrote World War Z, which was an immensely
That's
popular
why it sounds
movie.
like, it's written the title is written like it's a documentary or a report of some sort.
Correct.
Gotcha.
This
That's
is
what World War Z was originally.
yes, that it was. If you read World War Z, it's pretty different in how it's set up from the
Yeah.
movie.
I far prefer the book to the movie.
I do as well. The
I
the
know that's
full
cliché, but in this case, like, I enjoyed the movie, but the book was better.
I will say the what I preferred even to the book was the full cast audiobook that they did
Well,
of
yeah,
World
I
War
mean,
Z. That
that's how
too.
I did it.
Well, there you go. But back to Devolution. So it is set up very similar, true story, first person, and it has mixed reviews on it, and it's just such a slow burn. And I was like, okay, well, it's a slow burn. I could push past that, and I kind of like cryptozoology stuff. Like I like stories like this. It is
I've got
way
some
too.
recommendations for you then.
What'd you say?
I got some recommendations for you then.
Hey, I'll take them. I will absolutely take them. It is very up and down in pacing. It's not consistent. It's very hard to get with the characters and identify with them or just keep track of who's doing what. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it personally. You might. It's called Devolution by Max Brooks. It's not that long of a book either. It's like 300 some odd pages, so you can give it a shot if you want, but I just put it back on the shelf and kept it moving. Jeremy, over to you, my friend.
I guess I'm gonna review this TV series I've been watching.
Okay.
Oh, you can't judge me, okay? First of all, there's a little bit of a story of how I got here.
All right, let's hear the story.
So I was looking for a new series to watch, and I was like, you know what I should watch? I should jump on HBO and I should watch Silicon Valley. I saw a clip from that. It looked really funny. I'm gonna go check that out. And then I hopped on HBO Max and I'm like, all right, where is this? And I'm looking through the TV shows. And then I saw this show and I remembered, oh yeah, they said that Izzy Rowland from Dropout was in this one show. And so I was like, I'll check that out. I don't feel like I can just click that. I don't have to search for it like I do Silicon Valley right now. And that show is called The Sex Lives of College Girls,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds porny.
It
Let's
does.
just call it what it is.
Yeah. Call a spade a spade.
And it is extremely raunchy, but it's not porny.
Okay.
There's actually relatively little nudity and there's no like pornographic nudity.
That's good.
And really it's more of a slice of life kind of story thing, or at least the first season was. Slice of life about these four college girls sharing a dorm suite together. And they're all really kind of sweet girls. I was expecting them to be like catty towards each other, to create the drama that way, and they aren't. And I really appreciate like four people doing their best, screwing up sometimes, but doing their best.
Mm-hmm.
And most of their friends are doing their best. There's like no there's only been like one or two characters that you're like, you don't have any redeeming values at all, do you? And most of the way through the second season now, there's 3 seasons out so far. A 4th season is on the way eventually. Most of the way through the second season. I loved the first season. The second season has been a little bit of a drag for me because I feel like the girls had kind of gotten to where they were in semi-healthy relationships. And of course, we got to swing the pendulum the other way and wreck all the relationships to put some more drama back in it. And I'm like, can we all just be happy for a while longer? I like that better. So it's a little right now, but I'm sure the pendulum will swing back again. And the cast is a lot of fun. Izzy, by the way, if anyone is out there like, oh yeah, I like Dropout, I'm gonna watch. She's a recurring guest star. She's been in like 4 of the 20 episodes and like for a couple minutes, so don't watch it for her. But I'm actually kind of enjoying it, and I did not expect to. So
Okay. All right. Yeah, it does. That title doesn't do it any favors, I imagine, but I'm
I
sure
mean,
it
I'm
catches
sure it
plenty of
does
eyes.
favors for some people. Like, I feel like that title is advertising to the wrong audience
Mm, fair enough. Fair ugh. All righty. Thank you for
because
that,
that's not what it
Jeremy.
is.
Right. Right. But I kind of don't want it to be that.
Well, yeah, exactly. The people that are drawn to it are going to be like, "Well, that's not what I thought I was getting into."
Man, I guess we just
You
need to
want
get
me
our
to
minds
watch
out of the
girls
gutter.
talk about their feelings? What?
What?
It's not sex lives.
All right. Where was that streaming at again?
That's on back.
It's on Max. All right. All right. I'll see if it pops across the feed at all. But folks, that is going to do it for today's edition of the Royals Rundown podcast. We appreciate you sticking around with us. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can follow us on social media. On Blue Sky is where we're active, or you can go follow the podcast on Twitter at Royal Rundown Pod. But the best way to find us, to communicate with us, is at royalsreview.com. Plus, the side effects of that, well, you can stay informed as a Royals fan. Go check out the rumblings in the mornings. Go network with other Kansas City Royals fans out there. But once again, I am Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. And until next time, go Royals.
Give me more John Rave.